We've been married for 30 years now. Like, we had been kind of crumbling, I think, for a while, but about 7 years ago, our marriage really fell apart and we were pretty much done. Divorce was on the table. We were definitely at the end.
I watched a miracle with you guys right before my eyes. Like, was a good on-ramp to tell it.
Rob and I got married pretty much right out of high school.
We're babies.
We were babies. We were 18 when we got married.
Military.
And military. Yep. He was an enlisted Marine at the time. I was a college student. And I think that played a big role in what was to unfold, I think, over the years. I think we were very unprepared. We jumped into parenthood fairly quickly, not right away, but within a couple years, we jumped into parenthood. We didn't have family around. We were moving every 3 years. Rob was deployed regularly, as a helicopter mechanic and then as a pilot, just gone a lot. And we did not have, I don't think, that foundation in place to really, get us over some pretty big struggles. So I think that's probably the start.
Just the way you're raised. You don't even realize it sometimes, but the way your family interactions are, or the way people talk to each other, or, somebody has a strong emotion in your family and it's not allowed because it's bad or whatever. So you learn different coping.
That's so true, Rob. I really relate to that.
And we don't recognize that a whole lot. And we come into a marriage, broken people, two broken people.
Bringing that in.
Yep. And you don't even realize it. But what's so awesome is all the wisdom from the Word. Like I get overwhelmed thinking about sometimes. I think it's in Proverbs. I'm going to mess it up, but where it talks about if only I had known wisdom sooner.
Yes, yeah.
I'm paraphrasing it.
That's true.
It's a blueprint for us to have and live in the right relationship with each other. I was having this conversation with the men's, one of the studies we were doing, where how many rules do we have? People look at the Bible as it's a rule book, right? We got all these rules that we have to follow. Well, if we start off in the beginning, how many rules were there? There was one rule. You had one thing to do, Adam and Eve, one thing. And they couldn't do that, okay? And we kind of laugh at them. But then, okay, now we're out of the garden, and okay, we'll go on a little more.
Yes.
Okay, maybe about 10 rules, right? Okay, well, and then the Old Testament gets up to what? 613, right?
You guys are still eating shellfish. That's full of diseases. Yeah, you're so right.
613. Who could even do that? And then Jesus lays it out as you got two. Love God and love others. And it's like, wow, okay, we can do that, but even we struggle with that sometimes.
Where he put it right back in the pocket. You are not God. I am God. You need to trust me and love me and put me before all else. It gets back to that's what he said essentially in the garden too, is don't eat this because you can't handle this. You're not God.
You can't handle the truth.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's some truth to that, right? You're just not God. You shouldn't even, no, I think it's better than that. It's like, you're not God, so you don't have to carry that. I'll carry it. It's not even like a father. Yep. Like, you're young. I want you to be innocent. I'm real big on that with my boys. They can deal with the cynicism later.
Let them be kids.
Yeah.
And I would say too, not just the communication issue, but I think there was trauma brought into our marriage too that we were not prepared to deal with, that we had not dealt with. So things that came in from our childhood that neither of us really had dealt with at all, and we didn't deal with until our marriage fell apart. Some pretty significant childhood traumas, and that was something that, years of marriage therapy post, kind of our marriage breakup, that really, I think, was huge.
Kind of dealing with it?
I think because we learned the skills in marriage therapy and individual therapy that we were then able to go back and deal with some of the traumas from childhood. So I don't even know that we were seeking out necessarily at that point Christian therapists, but we both wound up with both Christian individual therapists and an amazingly solid, strong Christian marriage therapist. Plus, we also both did Celebrate Recovery through some of that,
which is an amazing ministry.
Well, I
have
that one.
I have such affinity for that ministry. Yeah.
So do I.
Did you go to the one with Matt McClellan? Oh, that's so cool.
I had some issues with I always want to say what I think they want me to say, not necessarily what I really want to say. And so I really had to find somebody that would call me out on that. So I went through 4 before I found one. But yeah, that's an excellent point. And we had to do hard work to come back from the ashes. Like, we really had to be willing to commit to a lot of work to come back. So it was intense.
One of the things that we used, which was pretty helpful, that I recommend it to everybody. There was an app called Lasting that we used. It was really cool because it had, I mean, it was a little expensive, but it was like, I think it was $80 for the year or something like that. So for an app, that's kind of expensive, but it had like different counseling sessions about, like a basic, like, how do you resolve an argument? How do you tone it back down? A lot of just basic
things that
and it was really good. And then we also there was a communication aspect to it where it would have you answer some questions as a prompt, and then you'd answer the questions and would send it to her, say, hey, his answers are waiting, you need to send yours.
Oh, that's good.
It was fantastic because this was, so to back up a little bit, we've been married for 30 years now. And about 7 years ago, we really hit, like, we had been kind of crumbling, I think, for a while, but about 7 years ago, we hit a really significant wall, and our marriage really fell apart, and we were pretty much done. So I think I didn't really know everything that was involved in that, but there was, divorce was on the table. We were definitely at the end, and I think at that point when we made the decision that we were going to figure this out, we were going to stick together, we were looking for any tool that would teach us the strategies that we didn't have, like anything. And so we tried so many things, and that Lasting app was huge for us because it was like forcing us to talk about things that we couldn't talk about like this.
Right.
Because there's something about like very vulnerable.
It is so true.
About things like this.
And you can be almost the loneliest with your spouse.
Yep.
When let me ask you, why did you when it was bone on bone and millions of Americans are at this place, why did you not do what they did?
So
like why did you not do it? I mean, because I think that's like
because we're too stubborn people.
Because everybody and their brother said that we would never make it because we got married at 18. So if I had to be very honest with you, like, I'd love to give you a super godly answer, but at the heart of it, when it was really down to the like, we're both broken and we don't know what to do, it was like, we are not going to lose. We are going to win.
Well,
I love that answer. No, I love that answer.
I'll tell you the other side of it, though. I had a praying woman who has been praying for me to step up and be the man I'm supposed to be. And for the longest time, I wasn't. She was always praying for me in the background, and suddenly something clicked. Brokenness sometimes does that too.
Brokenness, yeah.
Total brokenness. But she told me she was going to walk through hell with me if she had to.
Yeah, it's so beautiful, and I know your wife, and I know that's exactly what she did.
And that's what's so awesome, though. I mean, she's the best woman in the world.
So many women just ache for their husbands to lead. And what I mean by that is lead like Jesus did. He laid himself down for the church. He died for us. Lead, put yourself in the role that God made you to run. They ache for it. I could see it in their tone of voice. They ache for it. And yet they've been living outside of it for so long that the woman has had to develop all these muscles that are like never really hers to develop. So then when the bone gets snapped and reset, it's real painful because even healthy feels bad.
Yes.
Because you've been living outside of healthy for so long, the bone's all crooked, but at least it's not snapped. How did you guys deal with that part of it?
I would say that the hardest, how do I say this? A unique thing about our marriage is that we were military. So,
there's some grit
for 27 years. And I had to be mom, dad, everything for my kids, because he wasn't there.
Stopgap. Yep.
So not only was he really kind of spiritually absent, but he was physically absent. So I was a single mom for, a year at a time while he was deployed. It was very tricky. And I don't feel like it took him a very long time to step into the role of spiritual leader. So when we decided we were going to work on things, it took him probably a good 2 years. He went on a journey with the Lord. Like, it was a journey. And I've never seen anybody so earnestly seek truth. And that's what he did. Like, down to I'm starting from the very beginning. I'm going to tell God, I don't even know if I believe in him right now, but if he's there, it was bare bones starting from the beginning. And I've never seen anything like it. And my respect for him as a wife.
Like starting again from the ground up, right? That's what I'm hearing you say.
don't know what to say about it. I step back and I just have to laugh because I didn't know it could be like this.
But that's what it took, I guess. After all that, it took.
Never wished.
No.
We would never wish this on anybody, what we've walked through. However, I will tell you, the reward in the end has been amazing. Watching our children, watching our relationship.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
It's been a beautiful thing. But I just am in awe of what the Lord's doing in my husband's life. It's been amazing. And I think in mine too.
Sometimes you don't even know where to start. And you're like swimming in the sea of just not knowing where to start.
Desperate.
Right. You're desperate. You're trying to reach on to anything. Like you said, trying to take a shortcut, and the shortcuts don't work. Yeah. You kind of mentioned it earlier. We're not God. And when we try to take shortcuts and we try to control everything around us, it's not in our control. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that is what we're trying to do.
I love the full version of the Serenity Prayer. There are things we can control. There are things that are not in our control, and it's up to God. The windshield in front of you is really big. It's wide open in front of you, and there's this little bitty rearview mirror that sometimes we get stuck looking in what's behind us and our failures and our mistakes and everything else. And the devil will use all
That's
that.
true too.
And we need to be focused forward.
The devil attacks both of us in the relationship, especially after, going through some significant issues. Am I good enough? Am I worthy? Am I, what was my role in the downfall of the marriage? There was a lot of attack. There still is a lot of mental warfare that I have to do daily. I have to gird up every single day. Lord, only let me hear the good thoughts. Don't let me hear the
Right.
The doubts.
yeah, the
Right.
doubts. So it's both of us, I think. There's a big role with forgiveness in that too. And I had to walk we both had to walk a path of forgiveness and really learn about what that looks like and what it doesn't look like. And
One of the things that's most revealing anyway is we're human. We're going to make mistakes. And it's okay to make mistakes. We have to keep walking together. Sometimes we have to stop and pick the other one up. Sometimes a word here misplaced will make a blow that it didn't mean to
mess,
make or whatever. But as she was saying before, sometimes we have our doubts and stuff and whatever. But that's where we have to turn our eyes back up to the Lord.
Yes.
And I do feel like all the work we've done has allowed us to be safe with each other so that we can make mistakes. I feel like for a long time, we were both so scared to admit that we would make a mistake of some sort. And now we're safe. We feel safe with each other for the first time in a very long time. I remember in some of the darkest moments, there was one night in particular, kind of right after everything sort of fell apart, and I needed some significant intervention, therapy. I needed some inpatient significant help. I was in a really dark place. And I remember curled up in the corner of a room, just crying out to the Lord. And I remember hearing his voice absolutely, without a doubt, telling me, I've got you. I need you to trust me. I've got this under control. And he did. It was a slow journey, but it was definitely step by step, kind of just, he was so tender with me. Rob had to go through his journey. I had a journey I had to walk too. And I feel like the Lord has he was girding us up for future battles we were going to fight that were unrelated to marriage.
Right.
Other things that he was preparing us for that we didn't know that was what this journey was leading us for. So, we were to walk into some significant health battles that we did not know were coming. And I feel like, we could walk through that a whole different way because we've learned to rely on the Lord. We walked through what I think is the worst thing for me personally, that I could have walked through. I walked through, the Lord brought me through. I had made my marriage an idol. There were things that I needed to have dealt with. And I was broken down to the tiniest pieces, as was Rob. I was so much better prepared for a cancer journey because of that.
Changes a lot of, okay, recage, recalibrate, focus on what's important. It's easy to get caught up in, okay, my career's going this way. All right. Hey, we need to be, we're doing all these things, or we're saving up for this. And we had all these ideas of, where we want to live. And of course, we lived in Hawaii, and that was great. And we're kind of coming off of that experience. And, we had all these dreams and
Just
ideas.
narrowed
Down what is important. It doesn't matter where it is. It matters we're together. And it matters, our faith matters, and the testimony that comes out of it.
It's almost been funny watching what God does and his faithfulness. Like, we had a horrible time getting into the hospital. It was just awful trying to get into Penn State. It was like pulling teeth to get an appointment. They're months and months out. Like, I got this big diagnosis. I have, multiple tumors, blah, 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 blah. And, I was really concerned, but, we were praying about it. And maybe a couple days after I got my diagnosis, I walk into my school building and just happened to be complaining to my friend who's a school nurse. And she stopped and she said, "Where are you trying to get into?" And I said, "Penn State, Hershey." No, we're not doing that. I was like, "What?" Well, I guess her husband is like the CEO or financial something or other of Hershey Med Center. Within like 15 minutes, I had an appointment. Like, she literally, the school nurse, got me an appointment with like an amazing oncologist at the med center. I was going to have to wait months. She had me in within like 2-3 weeks.
which is clearly God.
It was ridiculous. Like, who thinks of and I didn't know her husband did that. I literally was just complaining to a friend. Like, this is just annoying. I can't get in. And
there's a big piece to that too, of talking to people about the difficult pieces.
Oh, like opening up?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
I don't know how many brothers, would come up to me every day, when they saw me, and would ask me, "How are you guys doing? Do you guys need anything?" And that was so uplifting. So many people reaching out and doing anything they could to help. Yeah. It was also a little alien to us because we're so used to being self-sufficient. And it is such a blessing, and it's hard to do, but there's times when you need to let the body take care of it.
You do.
And that is such a blessing to see. It's also a blessing for you to do. And when we're kind of thinking about it, it's almost wrong not to let people do that and not let people have that.
It is. It's like pride or something that gets into that. Like, I got it when you don't.
Yep.
I've been there.
I would say even like back to the marriage issues, like being vulnerable about some of the things we've walked through. Mm-hmm. The moment you're willing to be vulnerable, the Lord brings in a flood of people who have experienced similar things and need.
That's true. What is it about that that's true? Is it like you give them permission to be honest with you or something?
I can't even tell you the number of people, because we're pretty open about the path that we walked. And as soon as you even go into that topic at all of struggling marriages or whatever.
Can of worms?
It's a broken world. We live in a broken world. And so many people keep it shoved down. Like in Celebrate Recovery, they talk about people taking off the mask. And there's a lot of people out there who are hurting, who are wearing a mask. And,
we don't talk about this stuff in church. Like, we don't,
we don't, Corey.
Perfect. And no one struggles with the big,
pornography
I was going to say, I didn't know say that, but I definitely grew up in Christian culture, and divorce was like the worst thing you could ever. Like, that was just, we didn't talk about it. So when divorce was a real possibility in my life, it flattened me. I didn't know what to do because I thought, you can do a lot of bad things, but you get divorced and you're going to hell. That is
right.
Okay.
Right.
I did not have the skills for that. That was not something that was ever talked about in any kind of open way. And like the damage that churches have done to women who are in difficult situations is insane. When I'm talking to people about it, I was involved in a ministry for quite some time, dealing with women who've been betrayed through pornography or, lust, whatever it is. And that happens over and over again, where churches shame the women into staying in unhealthy marriages or whatever. Like, we don't talk about it.
We don't.
We don't know that there's support out
there.
We
don't
know.
And on the male side, men don't talk about it either, really. All the things that are ensnaring us, that are not pleasing to the Lord, that we know are not pleasing to the Lord.
Because we're ashamed.
Because we're ashamed.
We hold on to that shame, and that's the sin living and building in our lives and isolating us more.
Yes.
More.
Yes. And it's so what you said, by the way, remember how you said, the more you're open, that they're open.
Oh, yeah.
So that's That's another lie of the enemy. You think if you're honest with people, the only way, like for example, I'll give you an example. When I took this job 10 years ago, people, when you're forward facing in a church, they assume all these things about you. Here's what's true about me. I have an economics degree and a journalism degree. Never went to seminary. Can play guitar, sort of. So like, but I made a commitment with myself because of all this stuff I've seen in churches. I'm like, well, one thing I'll always be honest. Even to a fault. Like I let everybody know all my opinions. I let everybody know all this stuff about me. Because if you don't, that's how all these pastors fall. Yeah. They're looking over the shoulder. They're lying. They're living double lives. You can't do that. Even if you're doing something transparently and it's wrong, your body of Christ can come up to you and heal you. They can like, trust me when you're a loudmouth like me, this happens all the time. Somebody will be like, I know you're hard, but you're off. And 9 times out of 10, they're right.
But what you just said is really important. And actually it's even more so why we need to surround Ted and pastors in general, and yourself and anybody else who's serving, because it can be lonely.
Yes, it can be really lonely.
Yeah. And you feel like you have to perform at a higher level.
Right.
And even as Christians, we feel like we have to perform at a higher level,
right.
We're held to a higher standard.
Right.
But we're not God, and we need Jesus, and we fall, and we're not just because we've been forgiven once doesn't mean we're not going to.
That's right. Now you're like special ops agents for the kingdom.
You know, I will say something that has been such I think a treasure for us is watching the impact on our kids. So, you know, we have grown kids, but they are with us again. Rob likes to call them Australian because they boomeranged back. We have them again, but we've had some very, very intense conversations about lives changed and how they're so grateful to have a relationship with their dad now, and that, you know, so thankful that our family is still together and that we're just a whole different family than we once were.
We were trying to do our best to break generational sin, but I got to tell this quick story. But Josh, our youngest, he's 21 now. When I say youngest, so it does go quick.
I know. You're talking That's the one thing everybody says.
Quicker than you realize.
Yeah.
But, he took off in my car one day, and I had Man's Game Plan. That was the study we just did. Had the book sitting on the seat, and he's sitting somewhere in a parking lot, and he saw it. And he's like, oh, he started flipping through it, and he goes, "Hey, Dad, what is this?" And you know, when he came home, he goes, "Dad, what is this?" I said, "Oh, it's a study we're getting ready to start." He goes, "Can I come?" And that was so cool. It was so cool to have him.
He came.
Yep.
He's been coming. They just finished their study this past Sunday, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know that you're becoming famous in Encounter in regards to your testimony, but I would say this. I know this. I'm in my 40s. People are dying in loneliness in their marriage. And they need to hear that there's hope, that it can be done. And you guys, you didn't put on airs. It's not easy. Nothing with the Lord is easy.
Nope.
But
it's worth it.
Yep.
Right? Do you guys testify to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
He is worth it.
Absolutely.
No.
You're beautiful. I appreciate you. Thank you, guys. Thanks so much.